Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. Now if you follow me over on Instagram, you'll know that for about the last month or so, in between other projects, I've been building another Reaver Titan. This time for a friend, following a lot of the same process as I did on my own Titan, which is why I'm not going to show a lot of the build process. The only difference is though, I've got him stood up on a ruined Lehman Russ, and I'm going to do something different with the bracing for a nice post-apocalyptic feel. Now I've based it up on a 12-inch cutting board, exactly like I did my own Titan, which leaves this kind of handhold to fill in. Now in my Nurgle Titan, I did it with a miasmic malignifier. Here we're going to do something different. Now if you watch the channel for a while, you'll know that these are rubber moulds that I made to do my own homemade Necromunda Zone Mortalis tiles, and we cast it up with resin into there to make some really nice Mortalis tiles. In this case, we're going to use this stuff, which is sprue goo. Now, sprue goo is literally melted down plastic sprues from old models. So first of all, I'll show you how I made it. Literally, easy as it sounds, you chop up little pieces of sprue. You don't need to go too small, so you're seeing here, maybe an inch or so a piece. Really, you're only cutting it up small like this so that it settles nicely in the bottom of a jar. In this case, I'm using an old coffee jar. So you chop it into small pieces, let it settle into the bottom of a jar, and then we'll melt it down. Now, to melt it down, you can use a number of things. What I'm using here is acetone. Now, you can go and buy industrial grade acetone that will cost you a fortune, order it offline, or you can literally go into most kind of pharmacy type shops and buy nail varnish remover. Now this is 99% acetone, as it said at the top there. You want to keep it about that 98-97% acetone. Pour it in over those sprues, let it settle, give them a good shake to kind of let them settle down a bit, and then literally leave it to melt. Now I left this for about 10 hours and it melts down into that lovely goo you've seen before. Now obviously I've done a second layer of plastic and some more acetone in there to do it, and this is what you come out with. Now when you're using this, acetone isn't lethal because obviously it's used for removing nail varnish, but it's not the most pleasant thing, so I'm using a plastic glove to do it, scooping out a chunk of that sprue goo and using my fingers and the back of a spoon to spread that across there. Now it can get very, very sticky at times, but just persevere with it and smear it out, and it will come off the back of anything metallic there just with your fingers, as you can see. So you can see there I've already done one of the moulds. I'm not filling the entirety of the mould with this goo because again I want it kind of post-apocalyptic and destroyed in the base. Now I don't do sprue goo casting very often. It's something I've done years and years ago and I don't overly like it, and you will see why in a second, but for what I'm doing in this project it works really well. So when you do it here, you can see I've spread it out and I'm using my hand and really forcing down onto that sprue goo that we spread out, and the reason for that is I'm trying to force out a lot of the air. You will not force out all the air, and this is the flaw of this casting method, I believe. There are methods you can do to force the air out, but in this instance I don't overly want to. Now think about when you are doing this, sometimes you will scoop it out and you'll get way too much of that nail varnish remover coming out and dropping onto your mould or onto the plastic or whatever it is you're doing with it, and you can just wipe it up. No real need to, because it will still evaporate, but it will slow down the curing process, and also it will make your room really, really smell because this is not overly pleasant stuff. So do it with an open window, etc. But you can just dab off the excess, and that cuts down that kind of drying time, keeps the area a bit nicer. So here's why I normally don't like sprue goo casting. Unless you put a lot of force on, a lot of pressure, you'll see here loads and loads of air bubbles into this. So it's a close mould of what I've made. But if you've ever watched the channel and seen the Necromunda tiles, they're really, really crisp when we use resin. But for the purposes of this base, it's absolutely ideal for what I want to do. So what my basing idea is, it's going to be a post-apocalyptic ruined area where it's been bombed, nuked, or whatever, it's melted all the metal, and then demonic possession, etc. is taken over. So what I'm doing here is I've placed the piece of casting that I'm going to use onto the edge of the base, and then I've used a marker and drawn around the edge of the base to see this curve you've got here, and I'm going along it and chopping it out. That's one thing to notice when you melt down sprues and you reuse it. You can see here it's far more brittle than normal plastic actually would be, so it holds a little bit less strength, etc. If you're going to use it for struts and everything, it just is slightly more brittle than you would normally get. Otherwise, you just treat it exactly the same as you would a plastic model, and exactly the same way here. You can see I'm just cutting down the edge with a hobby knife. If you were gluing plastic to plastic in this case, you could then take these pieces that you've cast up using sprue goo and glue them to a plastic model. But like I say, I don't really do sprue goo casting that often, but if you watch my channel, I've done lots of videos on casting with green stuff, casting with blue stuff and all those kind of things, and you could use sprue goo in its place. But what I would say, again, it's a lot harder to get the air bubbles out, and it's a lot harder to get that kind of pristine, crisp cast because you are effectively recycling a plastic. But for this base purposes, absolutely ideal and stops you wasting those, plastic sprues you've got. So what I'm doing now, taking some milliput, which is a two-part epoxy resin, and I'm pushing this into these sort of lower areas of this base. And how I'm going to stick this down to the base of the model is using milliput and then super glue over it and then pushing them down. So really, it's a little bit of recycling. I could have used the resin ones I've got. I still have resin spares of these bases. Again, if you watch the channel, you've seen it on Necromunda before, but I wanted it to be post-apocalyptic. So carrying on that kind of destroyed landscape feel, you can see the Leman Russ that's been blown off and the turret on the ground there. And what I'm using here is the skull set from Games Workshop, and I'm literally just going to put skulls all over the base. So the idea is that this metallic areas, so these Zone Mortalis tiles, is where, you know, it's been nuked and bombed or whatever, and then it's the ground underneath is almost bursting up, demonic possession, all that kind of stuff that the wonderful world of chaos leaves. Now when I'm putting the skulls on, I'm putting a tiny blob of green stuff underneath, just to raise the skulls off the surface a bit more. So when I do the covering onto the surface here, the skulls aren't going to get completely covered by the paste I'm about to use. Again, if you've watched the channel before, I've done a similar basing technique like this onto my Horus Heresy models. I've also done it recently on my Great Unclean One base with its like skulls and then the paste that you're going to see soon. So although this is not my Titan, that's something important, I'm building this for a friend. It'd be quite nice that it matches in with my demonic army and stuff, so you know, why not? And also experimenting with my future basing ideas. So this is a Vallejo texture paste, and it's just really easy to use because it is a pre-mixed thing. And on my previous Titan base, I've used like sand and PVA and mixed in things myself. And I wanted to go a little bit simple, but also for the theme of what I'm going for, I think it fits really well. And again, partly inspired by the idea of that demonic possessed world after it's been, you know, nuked or bombed, but also slightly inspired by like the old Terminator films, that kind of thing, because there's always these robots going around and there was metallic bits and bits of buildings, then it was mud and then skulls coming out of the ground for whatever reason. It just looks that kind of little bit cool. Now if you do put this in any place you don't want it, before it sets, it does take quite a while for this stuff to set and dry, you can just wipe it off, or if it's over like here where I've put a little bit too much onto a skull, take a paintbrush, just wet the end, don't use one of your high quality sable paintbrushes, and literally paint it off the skull that you've seen, like I'm doing here. So that really is the base. I thought it'd be interesting to show just something different that I'm doing on the channel. I've never done sprue casting on the channel before, but I have done it quite a few times over the years, and it's using something that I've already done in a slightly different way. And this is the base. I will show the finished Titan on the channel soon and talk you through how I've built it differently to my current one, but I thought I'd just show the base and just something interesting I thought you might want to have a look at. So if you did enjoy that, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, and I'll see you again.